Welcome to the Bearded Bro Show podcast. I am Dustin, and I am joined by
Trav, as always. How's it going, guys? Today, we are going to talk about a documentary that's pretty much right in time for October season, even though it's sad because it's an actual thing that happened, so that's weird. But I want to tell, a quick story about this. Well, actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I can't tell the story until the end because it's spoilers. It's basically like what Ashley, because I showed Ashley this documentary because it was Dustin that kind of talked me into watching it because we were preparing for this episode. And, I guess, let me just say it like this because this is still staying, not spoilery, but, Ashley watched it, or before we started, because I went in completely, Dustin had me watch this, but I didn't even really remember that this was a thing that even happened about this particular guy that did this thing. But then Ashley, when she sits down to watch it, I'm thinking, because I went in blind, that she's going to go in blind. I wanted it to all be a surprise for her. And right before we started, she's like, oh, is this that one thing about that one that happens? She described the whole thing. I'm like, you know the story? Then you might as well, I wanted her to see it anyway, but I was kind of disappointed that she wasn't, because when it gets to the point of, more revealing of who it was that did the thing, I was I literally was like, oh, but it's kind of it's hinted at the whole time, but I literally went into this, to this documentary, just first time seeing a movie and you don't know what's going to happen. Not so much as, I knew it was a thing that actually happened, but just as a disclaimer for you guys, full spoilers on American Murder and the Family Next Door. It is a Netflix documentary that is surprisingly already made because this just happened in 2018.
Yes, it was very
within the time of me and Ashley being together and everything. It literally it just happened. It's just crazy that they were able to put this whole thing together, edit it, get it out to Netflix, and insane.
It happened very quick. Not
yes.
quick, but it's still a very fresh thing, and it's still talked about. It's always going to be talked about, but I'll let Trev continue.
So full warning for you guys, heads up, if you have not seen American Murder, Family Next Door, and you want to see it, just go watch it and come back to us. If you already kind of know what happened in real life, this thing that it's about, then stick around if you wish, but you've been warned. Do it with it as you wish.
This is going to be
a Chris Watts, he sucks.
Yeah, it's a pretty heavy episode because what this human piece of garbage did is just unforgivable and appalling, and being a father of two, it's shitty. It's super, super shitty. And because of Trista and I having two young kids, Trista absolutely refuses to watch the documentary. She will not watch this documentary at all. And if you guys don't know who Chris Watts is, basically, he killed his pregnant wife and two young daughters. And I actually have some more information that Trav doesn't know about why he did what he did with his daughters. And it's kind of crazy because there is a book, actually, that I plan on reading because I also don't want this to sound wrong, but when I heard about this case back in 2018, it interested me, but not in a crazy psychotic type of way. But it just for whatever reason, I love shows and stuff about serial killers and people that just do things. He's not a serial killer, but just I don't know.
My mom she's a pretty old lady, and literally I was talking to her the other day in person, and she was like, yeah, I've been watching this and this about teenagers killing teenagers, and I'm like, what? She's not a horror movie type person. We were even talking about the first Halloween, and how it was on this app that they were using or whatever, and I was like, yeah, you should watch that or what. I was just kind of joking around, but she's like, no, I don't like Michael Myers, and so I literally made fun of her. I'm like, I literally picked up my voice. I was like, you like stuff that really happened versus something fiction. I gave her crap for that, and they thought that was funny. But it's just that's kind of how it is with certain people. Like, the fact that something really happens makes it all that more intriguing.
Yeah, and I guess for me, it's more of like the psychological thing. Like, I want to know what the hell.
What would it take
what
for
was
you
he
to think
thinking?
those thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, like, what was he going through? What possesses somebody to do that? That's what interests me, not like the act of what happened or like, things like that. Because, like I said, what Chris Watts did was terrible. But as I was saying, there's a book. It's called Letters from Christopher. You can buy it on Amazon. And it's this lady that wrote it actually wrote him in prison. Obviously, he's still in prison. He got like 5 life sentences and 46 years or something like that. He's not getting out, and there's no possibility of parole or probation. Obviously, he killed technically 4 people.
Yeah.
But
and they counted the baby inside her too. They literally were like, and that kid, like, that's a count. Yep. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I mean, it's right because it's I don't remember if they even said how far along she was, but like the documentary, like, I'm gonna approach this as sort of like a review as like how the documentary is portrayed as well, because I want to touch on those things. Like, yeah, it's a real thing and we can talk about it, but I kind of want to also talk about like how impressive this documentary was with like all the footage you get is footage from news or a camera on a cop's uniform, which was amazing. That they just have that footage of like literally going and looking for Shanann, something. I forgot her name. And that was crazy. Like, as soon as it starts and you see the cop get out of the car, shake their hands and everything, and shake his hand, like, it just, wow, just mind-blowing whenever you find out later. But it's just was so real because of the footage they had and the kind of, I'll call it the interrogation room later on. Like, if you pay attention to the clock on the wall, he was in there for like many hours, since like 10 a.m.
6 hours.
Yeah, like literally so long. And he even like is crying at one point, like, I've been in here for hours, and I just like just sitting in a room. And it kind of like the way they space out that part with the interrogation was really cool. Like, it almost kind of makes it look like it's separate days, but then you realize, no, wait, this is all one whole day of like the confession aspect and everything. But I'm just really impressed by the way this is put together, and not even like, it's not even a 2-hour, like, it's not like a full film length movie. It's like an hour and a half, maybe even, I think, an hour and 20 something minutes. So it gets the point across, because when I was watching it, I'm like, how are they going to fill this whole story up with just like an hour and a half? And you watch, and oh yeah, well, and the other part I was going to get to was like, her Facebook is like, you get everything that they're about in their family, and it's all set up to portray this like
American family.
You're in their lives. Yeah. Like, it's not, it really feels like real. And it's just so baffling to me to think like, okay, that's the type of woman she was. Like, and I'm not here to like say anything about her or anything. I have all respect for the people that passed away. But she definitely was a social media heavy woman that vented about everything, and like didn't do just status posts. These are full on videos.
Yeah.
Like, she basically was like a vlogger, but on Facebook. And
she worked in sales.
That was just crazy. Imagine if she wasn't any of that, and like what the footage they would have to pull from. Like, the fact that they just pulled from her own videos was like, this is nice and this is different. Mm-hmm. And really like that, because you just kind of learn everything about like the real people. Because it almost comes off as like, these are characters, and then you're like, but wait, no, this really happened. So these are like real people, and just like their wedding and like all this stuff, and just like there's this one part, I think near the end or something, where they cut back to their wedding and they're dancing or whatever, and she's like saying, like, he's my protector, like he came into my life at the right time, and I'm just like, oh. Like, it just, like, it makes you sad.
It
Because
does.
it's like you're literally with the guy that's going to murder you. And it's crazy. And, yeah, the whole aspect of, like, what he did, like, shaking the cop's hand fully, like, because it can easily be disguised. Like, I'm watching him, and I didn't really get that, like, oh, he did this, because, like I said, I went in headfirst not knowing anything. So when I'm looking at Chris with the footage and the cops looking around places, I knew that he seemed off, but I thought it was just a general just nervousness because his wife disappeared. Like, that was the story at the time, is his wife is just gone. And then when you look back at the footage, and especially the second time when I watched it, knowing what he did, I'm like, he even went out of his way to, like, go grab her wedding ring and, like, show her, and it's like, she left that here. I don't know why. And, like,
He had her phone and everything.
like, because he literally murdered this woman at, like, 3 or 4 a.m. or whatever, because she got home, they did a thing, and then it was, like, in the morning at some point. And it baffles me how he tried to cover it up. He just wasn't doing a good job, because even the neighbor, like, it was the moment where the neighbor pointed out
That
he's
was
not
off.
acting right.
The crazy
That
thing
he's
to me,
not,
too, is after he did it, because he kept her phone and her wedding ring at home, after he disposed of her body, texted her phone to make it look like she disappeared.
He was worried.
Yes. But real quick, the book... the book is called Letters from Christopher, and basically this lady wrote him, and he wrote back. So this lady asked him a bunch of questions, said she was making it a book. So this book is handwritten letters between the author and Chris Watts, and it goes into detail that they do not talk about or do not show in the documentary at all. If you buy the book, the proceeds go to helping women in domestic violence survivors. If you purchase the book, the money goes to a good cause. The author donates the money to these charities, which I think is just awesome. But
Yes.
he mentioned, if I'm going to just run through basically what he did. If you didn't watch it, then just go watch it now, like Trav said. Killed his wife and his two kids, and his two daughters were 3 and 4 years old. Very young. And he shoved his daughters in oil tanks because he worked on an oil field. And he shoved his daughters down in oil tanks, and he buried his wife outside of the plant, but, like, right by it. So, in the book, he actually mentions the reason he shoved his daughters in the oil tank is because whenever he was going to kill Shanann, he was going to kill the kids first. Okay, so he went to the kids' room before he killed Shanann and tried to kill the kids first, thought he did, but did not. He then went and killed Shanann, and his daughter woke up and saw him doing that to Shanann. Since he thought he killed them, he freaked out. And in the book, he literally says, I put their bodies in oil tanks because I didn't want them to come back again. So he really thought that his daughters, like, died and came back to life. And that's why he actually shoved them in the oil tank.
Well, what was he trying to do with the kids in the first place? Smother them in their sleep?
Yes. That's
okay.
That's what
I was thinking how, because, like, I was trying to think of the timeline, because, like, at the end of this documentary, he kind of just, like, there's a voiceover of, like, everything that he did, but before that, he's covering it up. Like, literally, his story kept changing. That's another baffling thing, and I'll get to that in a minute. But when he got to, like, the truth, it's talking about, like, they were having an argument because, you know, she found out he was cheating, because he just kind of, like, well, I don't know if he admitted at the time, but she just, obviously, she had like, thoughts about that, because they showed, like, actual text messages all through this documentary between her and, like, other people and stuff, just saying, like something's off, he won't, like, have sex with me, and, like, all this kind of stuff, and, like, just stuff that, like, if you're in a marriage, like, yeah, you should be concerned about, because it's, like, you know, it's concerning, but, like, but yeah, that really intrigues me thinking about it. Like, okay, trying to kill them first, like, that definitely was not a part of that part when he talks about it, because it makes it seem like one of the daughters just walked in after he had, like, choked his wife out, and then, like, she was laying face first on the bed. But yeah, I mean, I know, like, obviously just more details would be, like
the book covers
that
a lot
that
more.
is interesting. Like,
Yeah, the book covers a lot more, and the book also mentions that he was actually crushing up like Oxycontin or Oxycodone, some oxy pill, and was actually putting it in Shanann's drinks without her knowing, trying to force her to have a miscarriage. And this all stems
wow.
because he wanted to be with this other girl that he was seeing on the side. That was the whole thing, and he literally mentions in the book, and he mentioned like the FBI's talked to him in prison. You can, by the way, guys, this footage, like all the body cam footage, all 2 hours and 40 minutes of the body cam footage, you can literally watch on YouTube, the full thing. You can literally watch the entire interrogation. Like, I did not think that the Netflix documentary was going to be based more heavily around like their text conversations. I thought it was going to be just like kind of unreleased footage, but it's not. It's based heavily on their texts. But yeah, like it got to a point where with his mistress that he was not even hiding it from Shanann anymore. He like literally used like their joint bank account and bought food and lied about it, and eventually
And that guy in the court saying, just get a divorce. It's literally like, yeah, like what Dustin said, being intrigued about someone's mindset. Like, why step to this level when you could just leave? Like, and especially if you're going to kill your kids, then just plan to not see them ever again and leave. Like, that doesn't mean you get to take lives, It's like, it's like some kind of weird, like, something snapped where it's like they just have to be dead for this to end. And, I'm giving him no credit at all, but I could kind of see maybe where your mind would go to, where it's like
he just thought that there was no other
that would
way
make
out.
it easier,
right?
That would just make it easier to just like not deal with any kind of like divorce, or just make them disappear. And like it wasn't the right way to do this whatsoever. But it is really intriguing on what his thought process had to be.
I think the most disturbing thing for me, and this was mentioned in the book too, is he admitted to the woman, the author, in a letter that he had written. Again, that's what the whole book is about. It's literally handwritten letters from him, like in detail, stuff that you're not going to get in the documentary. I like read some pages of it online. Like I said, it's still something I want to pick up and read more into. And maybe if that's the case, maybe if Trav ever has the opportunity to read it, or I can send it to him and he can read it or something like that if I get it. And maybe it's like something we can follow up with in the future. But the most disturbing thing for me is he mentioned to the lady, he was like, I knew. Like the night before he did it, like he knew for weeks he was going to do it. And he literally said to this lady, he was like, I knew the night before I did it that was the last time I was ever going to tuck my baby girls into bed.
Dang.
And he also mentioned in the book too, like his daughters were talking to him because he didn't kill them in the house. He killed them at the oil field,
right,
in the truck. And he killed the little one, and his oldest daughter literally looked, and she was like, you're going to do the same thing that you did to Cece. And he just did it. Like nothing. There was no... And he mentioned that, too, in the FBI interview. He was like, there was no thoughts. There was no remorse. There was no regret. Like, in that moment, he literally felt nothing. It wasn't until after the fact, and he did his confession, and he got caught, that the remorse kicked in. But during that time and the weeks leading up, he completely and utterly like no feeling whatsoever.
It's crazy.
There's a term for that type of like state of mind you can get into, and you guys could do research on it. I can't remember what it's called, but basically when you're in that mindset, you have no thoughts. It's just you're just like on autopilot. Like you just do what you want to do.
Just on a mission.
Yep. And I just want to say that, man, shout out to Shanann's best friend, because honestly, if it wasn't for her, and the crazy thing about this whole story to me is within 48 hours he was arrested. Within 48 hours of her best friend calling the police and saying something was wrong, they arrested him. Now, people, how they found out was his body language. Mm-hmm. That's when they put him in for questioning, was his body language. If he would have not had done
the test and stuff and how nervous he was.
Well,
and
he did those two news interviews when they sent the dogs in to like sniff things out, remember? And he was outside talking to them. He gave two different stories on two different news outlets, and his body language was different both times. And somebody was like, he fucking did it. like
Jeez.
arrest him. And the lady giving the test,
Oh man.
when she straight up looked at him, she's like, "Listen, there's only one person in this room that knows the truth about what happened, and pretty soon there's gonna be two."
Dude, like they and those two people interrogating him, because it was first the woman and then he brought the other guy in, like that was good cop bad cop, and it was literally flipped. Like there was points where she's nice and he's mean, or the other way. They literally switched back and forth, and they like mentally drilled him perfectly.
They knew.
It was like they did an amazing job with like really getting it out. Like whenever that guy's like, just Chris, just stop.
Yep.
This is enough. It was literally like all the lines and everything they were actually saying in real life felt like straight out of a movie. Like just like straight out of like You're Caught Red-Handed, like written dialogue by like really great filmmakers. Like it felt like a movie. And it's so crazy that we have all that footage. Like we have the footage in that room, and it was kind of like cut together. Like it had like little skips, like a little static effect that cut to the next point in the conversation. And like he kept changing it. Like they brought his dad, like he didn't know what to do, so he's just like, just let me talk to my dad or whatever, and just bringing him in and just like,
and then he confessed.
Yeah. And that's the other part I want to talk about, is blaming her.
He lied to his dad.
Was like,
he lied,
it got even lower
yeah.
than it was before, because she's dead and you're disrespecting your wife by trying to literally save your own skin. And I looked at Ashley, I'm like, what does he think? What was going through his head? Like, what does he think? Like, even if he's admitting to his father, like, she smothered him. And I just raged. What did he think that would do? Cut his sentence in half? Like, or something? Like, he was just going with the flow of, like, just in the moment, what can he think of to save his skin?
Yeah,
There's even a point where he's like, what's going to happen? Like, what's going to happen to me? And I think there's a point in the whole thing where he realizes, no, this is just prison for life. I'm done. Like, there's a point where he just accepts his fate. But before that, he was really trying to get out of it. And just, like, blaming it on Shanann and lying to your father's face and making him believe that and making him cry over that. And it's just like, man, you're so... Like, that was an extra, let alone, like, the murdering aspect. I know that's even heavier, but that lying and trying to make your way around it was, like, made him even worse than he already is, and he's the worst as it is. Yeah. So...
And right after he admitted it, the two people came back in the room, and they're, like, going through everything. And they said to him, they're like, okay, well, Shanann killed the kids. He's like, yes. And they're like, okay, like, are you okay with the world knowing that she did that to the kids? And the first time he's like, yes. And they're like, are you okay with, like, dragging her name through the dirt like that? And
it wasn't true.
He had no response. And that was it. Like, he knew. And it's just, seriously, man, that lady too, like, I commend her, because if I was ever in that line of work and I was interviewing somebody that just, like, killed their family, and I'm watching them literally lie, right? Like, looking at my computer screen, she was watching him blatantly lie to her face. And you can even tell there was a couple points in there, like, where she was, like, pissed. Like, she was like, no, like, fucking tell me
like, these are your daughters. When she said that, I'm like, whew.
Yeah.
Like, she's drilling them, and
she knew.
Yeah, applause to those two for...
If you watch the footage that's on YouTube of, like, the whole interrogation thing, like, there's a point in time where, like, she gets so fucking mad that they took this out of the documentary, but she gets so mad at him, and she's so hurt by what he did to his family that she had to get up and leave the room, because she literally told the dude in there, she's like, I want to beat the shit out of him right now. Like, she had to get up and leave because she was that angry at him lying about it, because he lied even after, like, he took the test. He continued to lie to them, and they eventually, like Trav said, cornered him and kind of like, can I just talk to my dad, you know? And they knew that they got him. And I mean, just the Colorado Police Department did excellent, you know. And again, Shanann's friend for even calling the cops in the first place. But, you know, people say too, like, had he not done those news interviews, or had her friend wouldn't have contacted the police, they either would have never found out, or, you know, he would have been long gone by the time that ever came up in question about what happened to them. I mean, he so easily could have, like, say her friend had not called and he killed them and nobody knew. He so easily could have just fell off the face of the earth and just went on to live a normal life. You know? He could have sold the house. He could have moved. He could have he literally could have just erased him and his family out of existence entirely. Which is crazy. But, like, seriously, it's a tough documentary to watch. I mean, especially that there's kids involved. And I'm really glad the documentary kind of, like, saved a lot of that for the end, because I feel like that's what makes it hard for people, is the fact that he innocently took a 3 and a 4-year-old's life. And
and there's so much build up to the mom's videos of them and how adorable they are, and just and there's so much there that just makes you, by the end, you're like, great, those kids are dead. Wow, okay. Just you're mad. Like I felt anger, hurt, and just, you know, and even though he's in prison, but it's like, well, he's still alive.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's a very bitter feeling about that. It's just like, you know,
you can think about it like, oh, well, he's doing life in prison. It's like, but you know what? Like, that's not enough. I'm a firm believer that, like, you know, somebody should have beat the shit out of him and shoved him down an oil tank alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like...
and some people's point of view on that, too, and sometimes I have to rethink myself, too, and I'm like, yeah, but that just ends his suffering completely on what he did, and now he's literally having to think about it every freaking day that he wakes up in that cell, and there's a gray line with that. Sometimes I feel like people deserve more, but then I do have to think about that, and, you know, just real quick, I'm not, like, religious, like, I do believe in God and everything, heaven and hell, and, like, you know, so, like, I could say what I just said all day, but then, like, there's a place for him in hell. There is, and I could only hope that, like, he asks for forgiveness, because, like, I don't know, man, like, it's really, it's like one of the lowest things you could ever do, and yeah, it just, like you said, it's hard to watch, and it's hard to process, and but like Dustin said earlier, the fascination aspect is there, just like what drives somebody to do these kind of things, and, like, it's a really well put together documentary.
It is,
to portray this story that actually happened. I don't think it could have been. I mean, I might have even wanted a little bit more, you know, add some more footage that we don't see in the documentary, but it is what it was, and it's just like a Netflix thing, so I don't really always expect those to be fantastic, even though most are. Like Aaron Hernandez one, that was amazing.
That was good. That was really good.
But I would have liked to see this as the series kind of version, like the Aaron Hernandez one and like a lot of others. I think it could have benefited, and there was probably talks about that, like, oh, cut it up in episodes, but I don't know. It is what it was, and it's just like, it's sad, and like what keeps blowing my mind is thinking of how literally recent that was. 2018 was like, it feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's crazy, and there's a good YouTube channel by the name of Bama Mike, Bama Mike, and actually too, a lot of the footage too, I forgot to mention, was actually from like other YouTubers' videos as well. Like a lot of the drone footage, like flying over like the oil tanks and stuff like that. That was from that Bama Mike guy, and he actually went to like Shanann's grave in North Carolina and the kids, and he like went and he paid respects, and he like went to the house where it all happened and like set flowers down, or other people did. He didn't. But he, like, drove by, and he was like, I'm just going to drive by one time. I'm not getting out of my car. Like, this is it. Like, he like went to the locations and everything and actually ate at the restaurant that Chris and his mistress ate at when Shanann saw the card charges. And like he really followed the story closely, but he does it in such a way that it's like, and he said it best too in one of his videos. He was like, it pisses me off that like whenever you hear about this story, like it's not about Shanann, Bella, and Cece, like it's about Chris. Like this is the Chris Watts story, but he does it in such a manner that like pays more respect to Shanann and her family and the kids, and not so much Chris. And I really like that.
Yeah, me too. It's I just had a thought while you were talking. I wonder if they're doing anything with that house. Can they put that thing up for sale?
I mean,
are people going to want to live there?
It's still sitting empty too, and I actually just saw a video. I actually just watched it earlier today, where I was like talking about like the aftermath of this documentary and how Chris is upset that all his personal text messages are out there. Like, dude, really? Like that's what you're worried about? Because your text messages are on a fucking Netflix series, and like he really wants to watch it, but the jail won't let him watch it. But a bunch of the inmates have watched it, and they hate him even more. But
oh God!
They actually
no, they let the inmates watch it. Oh jeez!
But they actually in this news document about the documentary and stuff, after it was released, like a day after, like a bunch of people like in the community that he lived in, like from all over the United States, flew to Colorado and held like a candlelit vigil outside of their house and put flowers and toys and everything in front of this house. It's still sitting empty. And the same guy that caught Chris on his security cameras, the same neighbor, still there. But yeah, like people are actually going to the house and like leaving toys and flowers and like notes and all kinds of stuff.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously I wouldn't want to stay in it now because of what happened in it, but
it's a beautiful house.
It's a beautiful house.
It really is.
Yeah, I love, like when I saw that house and inside it and kind of got like a kind of a mental map going on what it'd be like to be in it and stuff. And I was just like, man, that is a nice house.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like that ultimate living room setup. It's like, it's so nice. And it's just like, man, what's with the rich type people doing bad things? Yeah. AKA Jeffrey Epstein and all that. And just like, and I don't know, man. It's crazy.
It is. It is, and just to talk, this isn't my recommendation or anything, obviously, but if you guys are like unhappy in a relationship or
don't murder anybody, just get out.
Yeah, just leave, just leave. Like because he told Nicole, his mistress, that he was getting separated, that he was already going through it. You know what I mean? And like she was willing to stay with him. Like, dude, she knew he had a wife and everything, and she was just like, as long as you make that switch over to me, then I'm good. Yeah.
And all you ladies and guys out there that do that too, like don't. If someone is with somebody else, let them sort their crap out first. Don't get with them. Like I know there's like temptation, but it's like, man, it's people's lives and people's marriages. Like beautiful wife and little girls, like, and just throws it all away.
That guy literally had the perfect family, beautiful house, perfect job, making tons of money. She was a stay-at-home mom, a good mom, family on both sides that loved and cared for them unconditionally. I mean, his parents didn't really like Shanann too much, but that loved and cared for the kids, and you're just gonna piss that all away to be with somebody because they may be better looking or like whatever, but like that's just fucked up. Like if you're unhappy, leave. Don't be stupid. Don't be Chris Watts.
And and there's conversation to be had about this one thing, and I'm not here to disrespect Shanann or anything like that, and I'm not gonna really touch upon it too much, but there was a little bit of an aspect of the documentary kind of having some little bit of proof of her craziness, I guess, just a little bit over the top with certain things and all this, and just like the Santa thing was really funny, but it was just kind of like a little bit, it was kind of, I just got this whole, like, they're both just odd people. Like, they're just, But that's the thing, is he seems so normal
Yeah.
until you find out what he did, and that makes it even worse. At least she put like a little bit of the like craziness on her sleeve, like at least she showed a little bit of it instead of just like, oh, But I don't think for any second that she would have like murdered anybody, and it just like. And people that were on social media and calling her names and stuff like that, it's like, leave the woman alone. She's gone. Like, just respect it as what it is and who she was. Because, I don't know her, so I can't really say much. And movies can portray things a certain way, and, you don't have the full story. But she even admits in one of her Facebook videos, like, yeah, I'm kind of the controlling, kind of crazy one in the relationship. And you could see it. Like, that's just the point I'm trying to make, is maybe there were certain things that are making him unhappy and stuff like that, but it was his choice to leave, and he didn't. Like, he did it all wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, if she was really pushing him over the edge, it's like, there's no excuse for that at all. Like, I would rather a relationship end, see someone to obviously be killed. Like, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah. And like, even the neighbor that provided the cop with the footage, like, when Chris walked out the door, he's like, dude, he's not acting right. And the cop's like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, dude.
Like, as soon as he went out the door,
yeah,
it's like, he's not acting right.
He was like, listen, he's normally like a quiet, shy, laid back, reserved type of person, and he was up and pacing and like had his hands on his heads, and a lot of people can argue the fact too, like, yeah, like, he was nervous, but like, like, his wife and kids are gone. It's like, I get that, but I don't know, you can even tell just watching his movements and his actions and kind of the way he talks about Shanann and the kids, is like, he just didn't care. Like, he's just a scumbag, and like, he in the book, he blames it. If I would have never met Nicole, and I hate her, she's an evil woman, and she's taken down the biggest men, and it's just like, you can't put the blame all on her, man. Like, you made the choice to cheat on your wife. You made the choice ultimately to end your wife and your kids' life. So you really can't blame it on Nicole. She was just kind of there. Like, yeah, should she have put an end to it? Yes. But did she know at the same time? No, she didn't know. At least, that's what a lot of people think. I don't know. There's still a lot of speculation that maybe Nicole knows a lot more than what she's leading on with, and maybe that she helped Chris, or she convinced Chris to do it, and nobody knows. She is off living her life scot-free. I mean, I'm sure people are finding her on the internet and bullying her fucking relentlessly and bombarding her with questions. But at the end of the day, it was all Chris's actions, and it's terrible. It really is.
Right. Netflix, give us more. I want to give us just more and more documentaries about real stuff, even if it was so recent, because I think they're doing a great job with just like.
Real quick too, you said something about, like, I wanted to say something earlier and I completely forgot, but when you mentioned that, like, they could have, like, you kind of almost wanted more from it. It is still something that is so recent that there's still, it's 2 years. Like, literally, the 2-year anniversary, right. I think, just passed, like, in August or something like that. But there's still a lot more information that can come out. There's still a lot more that can be found. It's, you never know. It could be one of those cases that can be picked back up on in a couple years, and like, oh my god, like, Chris Watts just said this, or Chris Watts did this in jail, and there's still so much to be learned, I think, and there's a lot that he's still not telling people, I'm sure. But, who knows? Who knows? Chris Watts knows.
Well, do you have anything maybe to... How long we got? Let me see.
We got 20 minutes.
Yeah, like quick, maybe before we get into recommendations, maybe something to lighten the mood. It's kind of a downer to talk about murder the whole time.
My birthday's in 19 days, so that's cool.
It is. There you go.
It is, yeah. And Trista got me Crash Bandicoot 4, and it's very frustrating. And I think to myself, like, in the mind of the people who made it, So shout out Toys for Bob, but also fuck you Toys for Bob because you made that game goddamn hard. And it's just like the Insane Trilogy was already hard enough, and the original games were hard as hell as a kid. And I'm just, like I just imagine them sitting in like a big table, and they're like, "What can we do to make an already hard game harder?" And they fucking did it.
It's kind of how I feel about Spyro. Like, those games aren't really that hard, but finding all the stuff and doing all that is not the easiest thing. And I bought that game. I bought the Reignited trilogy or whatever it's called, like, a long time ago, because I grew up with the PlayStation 1, those original 3. Like, and I'm not talking about GameCube or any of those later ones, even though I did play all of them. But those original 3 are, like, my childhood. Like, I remember several times where my mom bought me them, like because maybe I got tired of them, and then we would turn them into like we just have a place down here called Games and More, and it's like was an off-brand type, like, because we have Game Exchange as well now, but Games and More was a big thing, and back then you could turn in stuff like that and get, a whole stack of PlayStation 1 games, and maybe because back then I was stupid and it's like, oh, I want to get a new game, so I need money for that, and like turn in a bunch of old ones. And there was just so many times where I had to re-find and buy. Like, I remember buying the third one maybe a couple times. But ever since I've last owned them, I do have them, all the original ones all now, in a box in my closet, and I'm just like so grateful because I'm like, these are going to be really, I mean, they're pretty much rare now, really.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that they remastered those games because it just looks amazing, and it's just like just my childhood all over again, but it just looks so good and colorful and everything. And I haven't continued. I started on the first one, and I barely got, and just like so many other games and stuff come out since then. I just played those, but I really need to play all 3 of those because, man, they're so good, and but so difficult. Just to find all the stuff, and like, oh, you gotta, like, for the final, I remember the very first one, I remember finishing. I think when I was a kid, I may have beat Ripto's Rage. I think maybe I did, but I know for sure I have never finished the third one, Year of the Dragon, because it got to the point in the game where the final boss, you had to have, like, everything from the other worlds, and I was like, no. Just like, I didn't go back into the other worlds, and so now I'm kind of playing, I want to play them as like, get everything as I go, and it's going to be a big journey to do that, so it's just like, I feel lazy about it, so I'm just like, I'm not even playing them right now. But
the good thing I can say about Crash 4 is, first of all, they made a ton of Crash games, right? You had Crash 1, Crash 2 it was Crash 1, Crash 2 was like something with Cortex. And then Crash
had him
3,
in the racing games too.
Yeah, then there was like the Crash Warped, which was the third one. And then they did like Crash Team Racing, which was really good. And then they did Crash Bash, which was fucking awesome. It was like Mario Party except Crash, and it was so much fun, and the mini games in that game were fucking incredible. And then they got stupid with it, and they tried to go in this weird direction and making Game Boy Advance games. You had like Crash Twinsanity, where it was like more open world, and they really, after Crash Bash, well, really after Crash 3, I guess, because they did the racing and then Crash Bash, they kind of got away from the whole platforming thing. And the good thing about Crash 4 is that, like, it literally picks up right where 3 leaves off. Like, I mean, it is, even though it's, like, not Naughty Dog and it's Toys for Bob who actually did the Spyro trilogy remaster,
nice.
I mean, it picks right up, and it's, like, the level design in that game is absolutely insane. I do actually stream it on Twitch. I'm actually going to be streaming on Twitch right after this podcast, but you guys aren't going to know that. But
well, we'll link it. Yeah. And you know what? Just real quick before Dustin continues, I actually been meaning to put his Disc Central channel in our what we call the big scroll of description.
The big scroll.
I'm gonna put that down there because Dustin's killing it, and him and Eric are killing it on Disc Central. I ended up watching like pretty much, probably a little over half of an episode last night on whenever you guys were doing
that
whatever it was. It was like, I think a couple videos ago. So whichever one that was. Dustin had the big pink and black hoodie.
Yep.
That's the episode I'm talking about. But yeah, really good stuff because, and I'm also excited about you guys having mics, by the way, because I think it's going to sound amazing for you guys to be able to go far away and still be able to, like,
Hear us.
yeah, and all that, because, like, there was a point where I was, like, using subtitles, and the subtitles were getting what you guys were saying wrong. That was pretty funny. But, killing it over there, Disc Central. It'll be in the description.
Thank you for the kind comment, by the way. You had mentioned that, like, you're like, you know what, like, it really feels like I'm there with you guys, and that's, like, the kind of vibe.
Yeah, it's a very chill. Once you're watching the video after a while, it kind of, like, I kind of start to get, like, I'm not saying I didn't get why you do this. It's just that, like, I understand the vibe more the more I watch it, where I'm like, yeah, you just feel like you're just hanging out with a couple guys and shooting some discs, even though, like, I would love to actually, like, be there and actually try to throw, but I'm just kind of, like, you guys don't add, as far as I know, y'all don't really add any music or anything, I don't think.
Mm-mm.
And so it's just this, like, just nature and just the quiet. And it just reminds me of being in a park and just chilling out, you know? It's just, like, very, very cool vibes.
It is. Although in the second episode of that, the back nine, because it was the day after, my son had got me sick, so I was, like, full fucking cold mode. And I was getting so frustrated because I was not throwing right. But the reason I want a mic, like, kind of that we can walk away when you guys can hear us, is sometimes, like, when we throw those discs, and if we have the right grip, like, those discs literally snap out of your fingers. I mean, like, you throw your arm and you hear, like, just a snap. And it was so funny because I mentioned in the video you watched, the front nine, the very first tee, I threw my disc, and I told Eric, I was like, it literally sounded like I cracked a whip because of, like, how hard.
I kind of heard it briefly, like, I kind of thought that before you said it, and I was like, that's really funny.
Because I threw that bitch
it was
hard.
definitely pretty loud.
Yeah.
So, yeah, on a mic, that'd be, like, one of those, like, sound breaking type sound effects or something. Yeah. It's, like, it doesn't even know what to do with the bass. Just, like, poof.
Yeah. But it's crazy.
Excited for that.
I actually have a funny story before we get into recommendations about a disc. I didn't tell Trav this. I have a disc that there was only 500 of made in the entire world. There was only 500 of these that they produced, and I have one of them, and Eric has one of them. So between Eric and I, we literally have two of 500. And you may think, like, 500 is a lot, but really in the grand scheme of things, like, that's not a whole lot, because it was made by Discraft, and it was made by a female player. By the way, there's a hashtag going around for females who play disc golf because this one woman got ridiculed for it, and it's called Respect Her Game. And I'm telling you, listen, there are women, the girl I'm talking about, and actually, Paige Pierce, all right, so she has her own putter through Discraft, right? Discraft gives their players signature discs. Like, Paul Macbeth has, like, the Zeus, the Hades, the Malta, the Onyx, and the Luna. Like, those are his discs. Those are discs that, like, he went to Discraft and was like, yo, this is what I want. Give me a plastic that when I throw it, it's going to do this. It's going to fly this speed. It's going to go this far if I throw it a certain way. And they, like, start printing these discs, and they kind of go through, like, this line of, like, they send him blanks, and then he'll get back to them, and he's like, okay, no, this is what needs to change. I need it to go a little more to the right. So they'll go back in, they'll change the mold, and then they'll send him something, and he's like, okay, like, tweak this a little bit. And then they come out with, like, a prototype. Or no, there's, like, a test flight, which is, like, the stuff he gets first. Then there's the prototype, which is, like, what they do before the first run. So then they do the first runs, which are always super limited, and then you have your stock run, which are the ones they mass produce. Now, Paul Macbeth is the 5-time world champion in the men's league, and Paige Pierce is the 5-time women's champion, who is actually winning the women's national championship right now by an insane freaking lead because she's a beast. And she actually had a drive last weekend where she threw over 520 feet. There's men that don't even throw that far. 520 feet. So she has her own putter through Discraft called the Fierce. So they did, like, a special blend of rubber and plastic and a special stamp. They only made 500. So I follow Paige Pierce on, like, Instagram, and what's really cool is I'm in a Facebook group that literally deals with Paul Macbeth and Paige Pierce discs only. And she's in that group. And she's in another group called Discraft All Day. And she like posted like, hey, look, I have a limited run of 500 of these discs available on my website this time, this day. So it was so funny. Like I was up and Trista was getting ready for work and I was like, oh, I'm going to get on and I'm actually going to like see how fast these discs sell out. I had no intention on getting one of these things. Okay. I was like, I want to just get on and see how fast they sell out. So like I'm sitting there and Trista and I have really good internet. And this is, I think, is what kind of screwed me over in the best way possible. Because I got lucky accidentally. So, you know, like looking for a new job right now, don't need to be spending money. So like I'm on her website, I see it pops up, I click add to cart. Normally when like these things drop, they sell out within a minute. Like they're gone. Like that's it. You can't get any more unless you pay resale for them. So like add it to my cart, and at the bottom on the right hand side of the screen on the far right, it was like review your order, checkout. And at the bottom, it was like calculate shipping costs. Now, the disc was only $20. And I was like, oh, I bet they're going to mark up the shipping because it's special. Like, I wanted to see how they do it because I've never had the opportunity to buy or even see like what one of these launches was like. You know, and I just know they sell out from like seeing people online. The people are like, they sell out so fucking fast. And there's people making videos of them not getting them and they get so pissed off. So it said at the bottom, type in zip code to calculate shipping. Now, my computer, because I have bought stuff on my computer before, has all my card information saved on it. I didn't think anything of it. I type in my zip code at the bottom, hit enter. Next thing I know, white screen. And I like stop and I'm like, what just happened? I'm thinking, oh, maybe it sold out. This logo pops up called Shopify or Shop Pay. I get a text message on my phone. That screen goes away and then I have a screen that says, thank you for your purchase. So when I typed in my zip code to calculate the shipping, like that was it, because like I wasn't filling in card details, like I said, like I wasn't going through any of that, like not my address, nothing like that. Like I was not in the checkout screen. I was literally in the calculate shipping costs screen. And yeah, I accidentally won a disc that was one of 500. So it's hanging on my wall.
Wow.
Right next to me.
That's cool.
Yeah. It was weird. I was like so mad.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, Trista's gonna fucking kill me. And I told her and I explained. She's like, no, like I'm not mad. And I was like, well, here's the thing. This is also what's funny. As I told
can
her,
explain.
This is what's also funny, and she even thinks this is funny too. Is I was like, because now normally on a website you can select what color you want, what weight you want, because that stuff all varies in disc golf. People like certain colors, you know, it makes sense. So you couldn't select anything, but there was a note section. And in the note section, you could put like, okay, like I want blue and green and the color, like a blue stamp or something, or a blue foil. And, you know, they would try to either give you that exactly or whatever they have the closest thing to it. I did not fill anything out because, again, I did not intend on buying this disc. I put nothing in the note section about what I wanted. So I told Trista, if I get it, I'm not going to keep it. The only way I'm going to keep it is if it's pink and we can put it in your bag. And she said, okay, deal. They send it. I open it up on camera, and I shit you not, that video is coming soon. I'm just waiting for Eric to send me his unboxing. I shit you not, because Trista looked at it before, and she's like, oh my God, Dustin, there's no way you're getting rid of it. And I was like, is it pink? And she said, no, but you're not going to get rid of it. And I was like, well, I don't want it if it's not pink, because I wanted it for you if it was pink. No, they sent me my favorite.
Purple.
It's purple with blue and white swirls, and it is so fucking pretty. And I was like, those fuckers. It's like, it's almost like my fucking FBI agent was like spying on me through my computer, and I like heard me say that, or through my phone, and heard me say that to Trista, and he like contacted the company. He's like, yo, I'm Dustin's FBI agent. Was spying on him. Send that motherfucker purple and blue. And it arrived at my door, and now like it's hanging on my wall. Something I could literally sell for like $60 right now and make more than my money back is just chilling on my wall. So yeah, I'm not going to get rid of it.
That's cool though. It's like, you know, it's like something you'll never forget doing, and the fact that it ended up being like, you know, like
a complete accident.
Favorite colors and stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that came to my mind when you said that Trista was like, wait, you're not going to want to get rid of this. I don't want it if it's not pink, but it's purple. Like a darker pink purple.
And even Trista's like obsessed with it. Trista's like, we're not. Like even Trista doesn't want to get rid of it. She's like okay with it hanging on our bedroom wall. and it's crazy. But Trista's also like, she likes Paige Pierce, you know. Trista's a girl who plays disc golf, and she likes the whole kind of thing that Paige Pierce is doing. So for her, you know, like, it symbolizes something, I guess. But yeah, it's cool.
To let you guys a little insight on me and Dustin's friendship lately is him kind of in between the weeks, like the week when we record and stuff. He's just like sitting me like, check this disc out, and it's like it's cool because of like all the different designs and like how every disc, and because like I watched some of his unboxing for that, or not, well, the bag thing, pulling stuff out of your bag, but anyway. Yeah. All those different colors and how everything, some of them are like kind of see-through, some of them aren't, and like just like how every disc is kind of its own thing, which is a really cool thing. Mm-hmm.
And they all fly different.
That's one aspect of disc golf that I'm already liking without even playing it yet, is just the different designs and just the, like, him explaining in his video like the weight and like how you throw this, like this one could do this and this one could do this, like it's pretty impressive. Just kind of learning that kind of stuff, and I'll learn way more about all of it when I'm actually doing it. But but it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's definitely like a big part of Trista and I's lives now, you know, because it's not only something that we can do together, but the kids are involved in it, you know, and for her too,
and
like,
it's exercise.
Yeah, and when the kids like aren't with us and we go play, it's such like it's relaxing, but we have so much fun doing it together. You know, like we rip on each other. I'm like, ha, you threw like an idiot, and she's like, ha, I made it in 3 and it took you 12, and I'm like, fuck you. I still throw farther. But no, it's
quick recommendations.
It's fun. Quick recommendations. Buy Crash Bandicoot 4. And
that was I thought for sure you were gonna go into something about American Murder.
Don't be Chris Watts.
I'm not gonna say. I mean, I would first say watch that, but I would also say pretty much kind of what me and Dustin covered throughout the podcast today is if you're in a bad relationship, like you just can't do it anymore, do not do something like what Chris Watts did. Like literally, like there's ways around this. Don't let yourself get into this mindset like he did, where it's just like autopilot and it's just like basically became a Terminator like for a few hours and just like just that's it, you know? And because it's your life, man. Like he's spending the rest of his life in prison out of like this one whole day. I'll just call it like one whole mistake, you know, multiple people involved, but just like absolutely just horrible. So, and not to leave it on a sad note, guys, but definitely like I'm just trying to say there's ways out of stuff like this, and just talk when you're in a relationship, just talk things through. All right.
Yes.
Just talk things through. Like communication is key. And like, if you're feeling like you're just being too quiet about things around your partner, like just let it out. Like if because you guys got together and everything, surely that person is gonna like talk it out with you and understand. And yeah, and even if you cheated, like even though you shouldn't have done that anyway, because I'm totally against people cheating, but like even if you did, just say it. Like I'd rather my friends and stuff relationships end than something really bad like this. So just do that, guys. And you know what? Follow us on Twitter and tweet at us, email us, message us. Follow Dustin on Dustin's MC on Twitter and all that. And he's got pink hair. I've been waiting to say that.
It's hot.
I was about to like try to win them over. Like follow him because he has pink hair. And you guys, we'll be talking to you next time.
See ya.